Hi, everybody. Bruce Schutter here with the Mental Health Warrior Program podcast, No Surrender. Now, in today's episode, and in actually the next couple of episodes, I thought it'd be really useful and really helpful to go over some of the specific challenges that I face, the mental health challenges, and describe what they're like. Now, there's 2 points to that. So, in this episode, I want to talk to you and give you an inside view of what generalized anxiety or anxiety disorders, because there's several that I struggle with, if you want to classify them, and an inside view for people that don't have this problem to help them understand what it's like to live with anxiety and anxiety at that level. And also then for people that struggle like I did and still do, but as a warrior, I'm in control and can manage that challenge. I can actually triumph over it every day. I want to show you there is hope and there is a way to move forward from it. So as I mentioned, we're here with the Mental Health Warrior Program, a self-help approach to mental health that I created based on my struggles with bipolar, alcoholism, anxiety disorders, PTSD. I threw that in from when I was working as an EMT and some of the experiences I went through that left lasting impressions that I still struggle with some days to find meaning with and to find a way to accept those emotions. But today I have. So while I'm still going to struggle with these challenges for the rest of my life because they are chronic conditions, and that's okay because I have the tools as a warrior, we have an approach, and we can get lifelong, good, positive results and change in our life. So it's an exciting thing. Same with what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about anxiety disorders. Now, as I mentioned, this has been classified with myself numerous times. So we started out with social anxiety disorder. Then we started out with just general anxiety disorder. Then it became generalized anxiety disorder. And again, there's all these subsets. But what I liken it to, and if you're struggling with anxiety, we're going to start out with the high level and what it's like. So for myself, what happens is I worry and stress about everything. Well, there we go. That's done. Nope, just joking with you because it's that simple, but you can also see how it's that powerful. If we're struggling and worrying about everything, which is where my mind goes with this anxiety disorder, you can imagine how difficult everything becomes because, as I mentioned, struggle and worry about everything. Now, the interesting part is it's just not worrying about what I'm experiencing now. It's got two other elements to it. So this is the first thing I want to bring up. When people struggle, and I'm using myself as the example, these are my experiences. So not only if I'm going to go into a big meeting or a big group of people, and it could be a professional type setting, it can be a social type setting, but I'm going in with maybe 10, 20, 30 people. My anxiety ratchets up, if you will. And so we begin, one of the first things is the pre-worry. So now we become so concerned with how this is going to happen. We become so fixated on this event, this meeting up of friends, this going to a meeting, that we have the pre-worry. And the problem with that is the pre-worry can actually stop us in our tracks and cause us to avoid those events, or it can push us to levels where we go after crazy solutions, if you will, over-the-top solutions just to find a way to get through the pre-event. Then we have things where we actually take part in the event, so we have the struggles of being there. Whole different level. So we pre-worry about it, I pre-worry about it. Then when we get there, you can struggle again while you're in the midst of it. And again, as a warrior, I want to throw this in, you can have the tools to keep managing that. But it's just another point where anxiety rears its head, and that's what can happen. And then we have a third point that happens a lot with anxiety. We have the event's over. We've gone through it. And then we start to rethink it. I start to worry about it. Did I appear dumb? Did I make a misstatement? Did I make a mistake? What happened during it? It's almost like we tear it apart in our minds, and we have the prequel, we have the actual film, and then we have the critics in the back going and talking about the film and all of the mistakes in it. Now you can imagine, and this is what I experienced with generalized anxiety. And this could be with a social event, but this could be with a work project. This could be writing a book today. This could be tackling anything, personal, professional, interest, any situation. Now, that's where we're at as far as starting to understand what an anxiety disorder is like. Now, some of that occurs, like I mentioned already, these are experiences, and in the past, they would push me into incredibly complex or almost over-the-top short-term solutions. I'll let you in on some secrets here. I'll let you in on some of the ways I handled it before I became a mental health warrior and what it can push us to. So a lot of times when I had a big meeting scheduled, and these are the big events where we're going to travel somewhere for a road show, or we're going somewhere like a corporate event, and this is within the IT field. So what I would do is I would stay up all night because of the nervous energy. So that pre-event energy was so voluminous, I didn't know how to handle it. Now, sometimes what I choose to do was to drink. Not a good solution, but it gives you that temporary reprieve of the pressure. But then look at what's going to happen the next day. I'm sure I could have done a better job if I didn't choose that short-term solution. But I also chose some nights to just stay up all night because the energy and the energy anxiety brings, it can be like a burning ball of fire. You have so much energy and worry over things that there were times before a big meeting at work, I would get up and I would drive around. I'd start driving around at 4 a.m. Didn't have to be at work till 8 because I couldn't sleep and I couldn't find a way to manage these things. Now, you can start to see how this can impact your life. And on the flip side, there were other events that literally I'd go out of my way to avoid because I just had that option. So we have certain events we can't avoid, and then we have to find ways to deal with them. And then we have other things that might be personal commitments, meeting up with friends, family. And there were times my anxiety was so bad that, again, I would just avoid the situation. And that's not good either. I missed out on events. I missed out taking part in certain things. Now, at the same time, like most people, we have a desire to want to be part of things. So again, we're going to push through that. So I'd push through that, show up at an event, maybe show up at a bike race, maybe push myself to go to the gym, go and meet some people, get out there because it's easier to stay in your house, again, with anxiety, than it is to go out and do things. So I'd start to push myself to do that, but then I'd become so overwhelmed with the experience. And you may relate to that. You're out there doing things, great first step, but now we can't handle it. So during the event, we struggle. And sometimes that struggle becomes so momentous that we can actually end up stumbling over words. We can actually end up cutting short a presentation or trying to escape from that room. And that's another thing, anxiety, I want to bring up with my story is anxiety is one of those things where it tends to creep in very fast. So when you have anxiety disorders, we kind of have that pre-worry, we have that I'm worried because I'm in the event, and then we have that critic and that after the event type thing. But we also have things that occur where anxiety has a lot of power to ramp us up and almost put us in that fight or flight mode. Because what can happen is in your middle of a situation, and you're doing well, you're talking to people, maybe you're dealing with this group or this project, and suddenly anxiety pops up and we don't have a way to control it. And again, it starts to put us in, we need to fight. We need to get out of this room. Now, I've literally had that where I've been in rooms and I was doing fine until somebody closed the door in a meeting. And my anxiety skyrocketed because I felt trapped. Now I'm in with a bunch of coworkers, even some friends from work, and I still felt trapped. That's how anxiety is sneaky. That's what it can do to us. And again, then not only am I struggling to get through that meeting or trying to make sure, again, I'm so focused on getting out of that room, I'm sure a lot of times we could have had a better conversation if I could have dealt with the anxiety. And then what can happen, as I mentioned, is just like now we're tearing down, I'm giving you funny stories, but we're going through anxiety and we're saying, oh my God, look at that, well, you failed. Oh, look at this, Bruce, you did really poorly here. You skipped that event. Well, now we start to build up all that negativity. We start to build up an anxiety is winning again because it's critiquing us. It's saying, well, you should have done better or woulda, coulda, shoulda. And again, here we are with anxiety hitting us on all the spectrum of an event or our life throughout the days. And this happens with everything in our life. So at this point, you can see how it can take over. And it certainly did for me. It was like, and I can best describe it, is there were many days I felt like I was walking on the edge of a cliff the entire day. Or maybe you think back to some of those movies and you see the person walking on that top row when they're at the top of a 20-story building and they're walking on the ledge. Maybe they're not afraid of heights. They're showing you that. But when I see that, and I do not like giant heights like that, that's what my anxiety put me in throughout an entire day. So you can certainly imagine the stress and the wear and tear it takes on you. And again, you're walking through events, personal, just meeting people, driving, getting to work, going to places. And each segment of that trip, each thing is filled with anxiety. It got to a point where I had to break it down and come up with a solution just to get to the grocery store because it became such a struggle because not only do you have to walk out of the house and maybe run into people, then you have to drive, be able to handle the traffic, the stress. Then you get to the grocery store, the store's packed. You're trying to weave your way through while you're making decisions. There's the inevitable long checkout lines. Again, I will let you in on little personal stories here that I'm laughing about today. But at the time, I used to be terrified when I'd finish shopping at a store because if there was a huge line, I knew I was going to struggle mightily to get through that line. And there's something today that's a little bit simple and actually has turned into a wonderful experience of meeting people and talking to them. But when you have anxiety, it makes everything over the top and it brings in that stress level. So if you've not experienced it, you can't almost understand it, which is why I wanted to do this video today and do this talk today. But if you have experienced it, you also know this crippling effect it has on you. And we could go on and on with stories, and we could go on and on with funny solutions that I've done, and funny solutions that I'm sure you've done and other people. And sometimes they work for a little bit. They're short term. But what I want to bring up here is that's why I created the Mental Health Warrior program. Because the key power that anxiety has over us and the key thing that we can stop is that we can learn to manage our emotions. And that's why I made the whole program and created it as a self-help program. Because we can do these things throughout the day because much like anxiety, it's going to hit us and try to take us down throughout the day, if you will. Kind of thinking it like a wrestling match where it shows up and every time I go to do something, it's like entering that ring and you got a fresh opponent. Except I've been through 20 matches in the day and I'm facing that person tired and exhausted. But today I'm not because I have the Worrier tools and I have ways to manage that anxiety. Some of the things I've learned as a warrior and the program teaches us is to remember that things like mistakes, they're part of life. They're part of actually learning. And nobody, very rarely does anybody get put down for those little mistakes. And even if they do, when we reframe them and bring them up as learning experiences, I can be sure there were many times the mistakes I made, since I learned from them, I didn't make them again. And that's how it happens for everybody. It's certainly what we would give the same break to everybody. And that's what the program teaches us. And the program teaches us being a warrior, it is a lifelong results driven, it's lifelong self-empowerment, which is good because chronic conditions like anxiety that I struggle with, they're not going to go away. As I mentioned a lot of times, they don't go away because I became a warrior, waved a magic wand, or simply banished it from my life. Because I will keep putting myself into tougher situations as a warrior because I know I can handle them. But conversely, I am also bringing in more stress and more anxiety challenge opportunities to my life, more anxiety and stress challenge opportunities. I think you get what I'm saying there. What I'm saying is, as we try to get more challenging things, it comes with a higher level of stress. See, now just like that, I just really messed up and flunked. But today, I view everything as I'm a beginner in life. I'm constantly learning. And as a warrior, I'm growing more powerful, but it would be foolish to expect that I can just run over these emotions. I still manage them, but I'm in charge today, and you can too. And that's something we're going to work towards. And it's the same with other people. If you're on the outside and you see this anxiety, the best thing you can do is you can help out people by understanding it's a process. And we have to learn to become warriors. And over time, we'll get better and better at handling it. But it doesn't mean it will give up and stop trying. Like I mentioned, anxiety is always in that wrestling ring, ready to take us on in another match. And I swear it's always fresh and ready to go with new creative ideas on how to stress me out. But I am very well armed today as a mental health warrior. Lots of tools, lots of things that I can go back to, and I can recenter myself 20 different ways when anxiety comes up, which means I will triumph. Because you can imagine that right there. It's like I'm coming into the ring with 20 different tricks and tools to wrestle, and that person just has one. They just have anxiety. They just keep bringing anxiety in. The anxiety is there, and I choose to, one, say I'm going to stand up to you today. We're going to use the old warrior creed, bend, not break. And that's a first step to standing up to anxiety. We're just going to bend a bit and accept that it's there. We're going to learn from it as warriors. And a lot of times our anxiety comes because we care and because we want to do a good job. We care about having fun with our friends, meeting them, doing activities. We care about our work. We care about doing well in a meeting. And again, that's all positive that we learned from what could have been a negative, the anxiety. So you can see we're just starting to kind of peel back the layers of an onion, for lack of a better analogy. And I've got lots of stories like this, and we'll keep talking about this throughout these episodes. But I really wanted to try and give people an inside look and really explain to them that anxiety, it is just a very overwhelming force in nature, in life. And it does naturally occur because we will be experiencing things every day, and we can have that anxiety. But when you have anxiety disorders, it takes it to a whole new level. I put my hand above my head because it's at the level. And that means we are going to struggle each day through every situation. And to be frank, like I mentioned, that critic, that after the event thing, I even struggle sometimes and think back to things that happened 10 years ago. They just pop in my mind, and I think, why didn't I react better? Or, boy, I was really scared and I failed. Again, we didn't. We just struggled. But it's about today. It's about being a warrior today and how we can move forward and how we can always triumph over any challenge, including anxiety, that life's going to bring our way. Now, thanks for joining me. I hope this gives you some insights into anxiety. And I want to mention, though, the Mental Health Warrior program. Go to bruceschutter.com because we have lots of resources to get you started and get you excited about this new way of living. Because on that site, you'll see all of the books. You'll see the challenge coin. You'll also see a free book that'll clue you in and give you that starting point to what it is to be a warrior, give you a little bit of my story, give you a little bit of the components, and that book has 5 tools you can start using today. And some of those tools you can use against anxiety so that you can triumph over it. And you can always meet anxiety head on, and you can triumph. You can learn to manage it. And then you can do things today where even if it pops up, because again, these challenges will occur, but we accept them, we manage them, and we keep moving on, and we get to enjoy things. And I can guarantee you at a certain point, as you get stronger and stronger as a warrior and you're working on these things, what's neat is you'll actually get past it faster, and you'll start to enjoy what you're doing even more. And I like to think of a sliding scale. Used to be, I spent 90, can't even speak here. I'm trying to wrap up, and I'm so nervous. No, it's anxiety. It's not, because I'm going to calm down, and I'm going to handle it. I used to spend 90% of being in an event or something where it was causing me anxiety, and 10% enjoying it. And today, it's 90% enjoyment. I'm getting so much more out of life and the experiences with 10% of anxiety showing up, and I can manage that. and I've been able to cull it down to that amount. That's exciting. So, hope you'll join me on bruceschutter.com. Check out the resources, and you can become a warrior. Because I want to leave you with this thought. The power to change your life is within your grasp. Being a mental health warrior is available to everyone. The only question on the table is, are you going to start today? And I know the answer is yes, so I hope to see you there. Bye.